Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. In the previous video, we finished designing the user interface for the AceleroControl robot. Now, in this video, we will go inside the block section and we will finish the graphical programming for our AceleroControl robot. So I'll go in block section, and inside the block section, I will first use the blocks to enable the smartphone's accelerometer. So to enable the accelerometer sensor from the smartphone, I'll click on screen 1. Next, I'll choose this block which says when screen1.initialized, and inside this block, I'll go in accelerometer sensor now and I'll put this block which says accelerometer sensor 1.enabled, and I will set the enable block to true. So I'll go in the logics block, and inside the logics block you can see I have the true block. So basically the accelerometer sensor will get enabled as soon as the screen is initialized, that is as soon as the application starts. Next, I will use the before picking and the after picking block. After this, I'll enable the after picking block. I'll choose a property of selection. And I'll connect it with the selected Bluetooth device from the list. Next, I'll collapse all the three blocks. I'll just rearrange them on the top. Next, we will do the graphical programming for the disconnect button. So I'll select the disconnect button, and when disconnect button dot click, I'll disconnect both the Bluetooths. I'll collapse this as well. Now after completing these 4 blocks, next I will go in accelerometer sensor 1 and I will choose the accelerometer sensor 1.acceleration change block to detect the change in the X and Y values. Now before we start comparing the X and Y values inside the acceleration change block, I first need to check if the Bluetooth and the accelerometer sensors are enabled or not. So to check that, I'll go in control first, then I'll select this if loop. Now inside the if loop, I'll add an AND block. So to add the AND block, I'll go in the logics block, and inside the logics block you can see I have the AND block. Now inside the AND block, I'll put 2 blocks. One will be the Bluetooth client 1.enabled. So the Bluetooth client 1.enabled block is inside the Bluetooth 1 block. So I'll put it in the first socket. The next block will be to check whether the accelerometer sensor is enabled or not. And we have already enabled the accelerometer sensor when screen is initialized. So guys, if the Bluetooth sensor and the accelerometer sensor, so if both the sensors are enabled, then this if loop will be true and the program will enter inside the if loop. That is, we can start adding blocks inside the then socket and these blocks will keep on executing. Now after enabling both the blocks, next we will use 5 if loops for comparing the X and Y values. And these 5 if loops will be for forward, backward, left, right and stop. So I'll go in the control blocks again, and next I'll choose this if loop, and inside this if socket I'll use a comparison block. So the comparison blocks are in the math block. So I'll go in math block and I'll choose this block which has an equal to symbol. Now the first if loop is to check for the forward condition. So guys, if you remember, when I tilted my smartphone in the forward direction, so during that time there was a change in the X axis and the value was in minus. So I'll select the less than or equal to sign and I'll put this block over here. After that, I'll go in accelerometer sensor 1, and next I'll choose the accelerometer sensor dot X axle, and inside the next socket I'll put a math block. So I'll go in math block and I'll choose this integer block. I'll put it here and I'll set it to less than -3, because when we tilted a smartphone in the forward direction, so during that time we were getting the acceleration value of -3 point something something, which is actually less than -3. So if the X acceleration value is less than -3, that is -4, -5, -6, then we will send an integer data from the Bluetooth. So I'll go in the Bluetooth client 1 and I'll use this send 1 byte number, and the integer that we will send for forward will be 1. Okay, and when the Arduino receives this integer 1, it will move the robot in the forward direction. After sending the number 1, next I'll go in label 1, and inside the label 1 I'll choose the block which says set label 1 to text, and inside this empty socket I'll go in the text block and I'll put an empty string, and this empty string will correspond to forward. Okay, so not only will the Bluetooth send a number 1, but in place of this label which says stop, okay, the text of the label will change to forward as well, so that you can figure out whether the acceleration value is gone below -3 or not. Next, I'll click on duplicate and I'll duplicate this block. I'll put it below this if loop, and this time we will change the x acceleration value to greater than 3. And if you guys remember, when I moved my phone in the backward direction, so during that time the x acceleration value was more than 3, that is 3, 4, 5. So when the x acceleration value is more than 3, I'll send a number 2 and I'll change the text to backward. After this, I'll again duplicate this block. I'll put it below over here. Now next I'll compare the y acceleration value. So first I'll do if y acceleration less than -3. So if the y acceleration value is less than -3, the label will print left and we will send an integer 3. I'll again duplicate this code, and after comparing for the left, I'll now compare for the right. So if y acceleration is greater than 3, then I'll send a number 4. And last, I will add a condition to stop the robot. Now guys, for stopping the robot, instead of using a single value of x and y acceleration, I will use 4 values. Okay, 2 values of x acceleration and 2 values of y acceleration. So basically, I'll set a limit between 0 to 1, and if the phone's x acceleration and y acceleration is between that limit, then the robot will basically stop. So inside the if loop, I'll first add 3 AND blocks. So I'll add this AND block over here. So currently with 3 AND blocks, I can put 4 conditions over here. After this, I will click on the blue block, which is the outermost block, and I'll click on duplicate. Okay, and I'll duplicate this block 2 more times. Now after duplicating the block, first I'll change the top block from y acceleration to x acceleration. So if the x acceleration value is greater than or more than 0, next I'll change the y acceleration again to x, and if the value is less than 1. So as I told you, I'm using a limit between 0 and 1. Similarly, I'll change the y acceleration and set it to greater than 0 and less than 1. Okay, next I'll put these blocks inside these blocks. After putting the x block, I'll put the y blocks. So guys, if I read out the final if block, then this block basically compares the limits of x and y acceleration. So if the x acceleration value is more than 0 and if the x acceleration value is less than 1. So if your smartphone's x acceleration is in the limits of 0 to 1 and if your y acceleration is also in the limits of 0 and 1, I will print the condition of stop, and for stopping the robot, I'll send a number 5. So guys, I basically finished programming the AceleroControl robot. If I run through the code once, so first we are basically enabling the accelerometer sensor. Next, we are using the after picker and the before picking block to enable Bluetooth connection between both the Bluetooths. Next, we are using the disconnect block. And after that, next in the main acceleration change block, we are first enabling the accelerometer sensor and the Bluetooth sensor. That is, we are checking if the Bluetooth client and the accelerometer sensor 1 blocks are enabled or not. If they are enabled, then first, if the value of acceleration is less than -3, then the label will print forward and we will send a number 1 to the HC05 Bluetooth. If the X acceleration is more than 3, that is, if you tilt the phone backward, we will change the text to backward and we will send a number 2. Similarly, if you tilt your phone in the left direction and if the Y value is less than -3, that is -4, -5, then the label will change to left and we will send a number 3. If you tilt the phone in the right direction and if the Y acceleration is more than 3, then okay, over here I forgot to change the left to right, so I'll change this to right over here. Okay, so if the Y value is greater than 3, that is 4, 5, 6, then we'll print a text of right and we'll send a number 4. And at the last, if the X acceleration and the Y acceleration values are between 0 and 1, then we will print a label stop and the Bluetooth client will send a number 5 to the HC05. So guys, that's it from this video. In the next video, we will finish the Arduino program for the AceleroControl robot app.